And gentlemen, fellow veterans, honored guests. I'm ARC resident Karen Curry and an Air Force veteran. It's my honor to welcome you to our celebration of Women Veterans Day. If you are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones. National Women Veterans Day, Recognition Day, is celebrated on June 12th to mark the 78th anniversary of the signing of the 1948 Women's Armed Services Integration Act. Before this legislation, the only women allowed to serve in the military during peacetime were nurses. Women Veterans Day is a state-recognized holiday in 14 states, including Texas. More than 215,000 women veterans call Texas home, more than any other state in the Union. Approximately 50 women veterans live here at the Army Residence Community. If you are a woman veteran, please stand or raise your hand and let us thank you for your service. Thank you, ladies. Today we honor the generations of women who stepped forward, raised their right hands, and served our nation with courage and conviction. Our guest speaker is someone whose life's work embodies every important aspect of Women Veterans Day. Major General Angela "Angie" Salinas, United States Marine Corps retired, is a pioneer whose career helped reshape the face of military leadership. Over 39 years of service, she rose from enlisted Marine to become the first Latina general officer in the Marine Corps and the first woman to command the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. Her leadership influenced thousands of Marines and opened doors for those who followed. A proud Texas native from Alice, she commanded at every level, served in key senior positions at Headquarters Marine Corps and the Joint Staff, and earned some of our nation's highest awards, including the Defense Superior Service Medal and the Navy Distinguished Service Medal. But her service to others did not end in uniform. After retiring, Major General Salinas became the Chief Executive Officer of the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas, where she championed leadership development for girls across our region. Under her guidance, the organization strengthened programs that build confidence, character, and a sense of service, ensuring the next generation of leaders grows up with the values we, as veterans, understand so well. Today, she continues to be a powerful advocate for veterans, for women in service, and for the communities she calls home. Please join me in welcoming a trailblazer, a mentor, and a lifelong servant leader, Major General Angela Salinas, United States Marine Corps retired. There you go.
Thank you, Karen. And she even gave me my step, so I look taller. Because it's the burden of responsibility, right? I'm so excited to be here. I just really feel that when I come to like the ARC or Blue Skies, I feel like when I speak, I'm just really speaking to the choir or singing to the choir because I'm home. So I really want to say thank you. I'm so honored to speak here. You know, today I really feel like I'm just going to walk through history, and although I didn't start, the history of women, I want to just walk through and tell you some really, really unique stories. But I'm just so honored to be here. I look into the faces of many of you, and I know that you really broke the path, and I feel like I'm standing on your shoulders. I got to do and serve my country because of the women in this room who served, and you, the men also, who served our country. And you opened the doors, and you were also advocates for women. And so just thank you. I'm so honored, and if I'm moved today, I just tell you that I carry a big banner, and the girls that I try to continue to serve, and this is, I'm not on my script yet, but I just want to tell you that I'm often asked, what is someone like you, a Major General in the United States Marine Corps, doing in a place like the Girl Scouts? Right? I could be making seven figures somewhere. And I chose to be in the Girl Scouts because every single girl wears the American flag on her sash and on her vest. And I often, I had to be 19 years old to raise my hand and say I do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution. And I joined an organization that was, at the age of 5, I get to teach a girl, on my honor, I will try to serve God in my country. I mean, what better place can you be where every Girl Scout starts a meeting with, I pledge allegiance to the flag, right? And so it's an organization that still has the same values that every one of us, right? That when we were 18 years old, we raised our hands and said, I do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution. So, thank you, because those are the values that we all started with. So today, I just want to kind of highlight that history in the service, that as women, right, we've been there since the very beginning. And it kind of started with, which way do I point? Up? There? I know I'm only a Major General, so I should have figured this out, right? So, and this is why you have E2s, right? Because they're much smarter.
You have to press the down button.
Oh, the down button, not the up button. Oh, see, this is why we have really smart people, and they tell the generals, would you please get out of the way? It started really, I know it went before the Revolutionary War. I'm sure that women have been leading the way since the beginning of time, right? And so, but I'm going to start with the Revolutionary War because it has been, we've been here defending our country since the founding of our nation. We just haven't been recognized. We've been there with courage and endurance, and because we've been caretakers, and we've been there giving supply and supporting, and we've always been on the front lines. And so I think every one of us who've been in the services, we've always heard about Molly Pitcher, right? And so the name kind of came up because there was this fictitious woman that was going around, and she always had this pitcher of water, and that's where the name kind of came up with Molly Pitcher. But there was actually a woman, and the story kind of came up with the idea that her husband was an artilleryman, right? And she was out there kind of pitching the water, right? But her husband was wounded, and he was an artilleryman, and so he fell, and so she just said, I can do this. And so she basically picked up, jammed in the round into the artillery and figured out how to pull and boom, and it went off. And so this whole idea of Molly Pitcher, but she was a fictitious woman, we suspect, but maybe she wasn't. And so this is how this idea that women would step in and fill up that role as we can do this too. And so Molly Pitcher just became kind of this storied woman that we could step up, and we've been filling that role ever since. But the reality is that it was a woman named Deborah Sampson who really was the earliest documented woman in the U.S. military, and she enlisted in 1782 under the name of Robert Shurtleff, and she actually served in the Continental Army, and she was demonstrated, and she was well known. They wrote books about her, of her demonstrated courage under fire. In fact, she was wounded, and we didn't even know that she was a woman until she was wounded, and voila, when they went to treat her for her wounds, did they find out that, oh my God, she's really Deborah. And so Deborah was actually retired, and she got a pension. So they really recognized her for her bravery in her service, and this is really, she was the first that they started recognizing women, and it went on through the Civil War. Hundreds and hundreds of women wanted to serve, and they served as men, covered. I mean, they really disguised themselves. But women also served as spies, and they were captured, and Dr. Mary Walker is a great example. How many of you knew that Dr. Mary Walker received the Medal of Honor? Yeah, great. And how many of you knew that we took it away from her? Yeah, we all knew we took it away. And how many knew that she got it back? Okay, in 1977, she actually got it back. But the realities are that, again, history kind of repeats itself, but we served, and this is another example. Historians believe that many, many of them had served during the Civil War, but it was hidden because we could not serve. So, again, another example. But now let's go to World War II, because that's when we officially, World War I is the expanding role of women, and this is where it really starts happening. Army, Navy nurses. This is really where our nurses really start to expand. But this is where they can actually get rank. The Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard officially let us enlist. Oprah May in the United States Marine Corps were the first one. 314 women enlisted in the Marine. I'm sorry, Army. Guess what? You were not allowed to be in the Army. You were allowed to be contractors, and you were able to be nurses, but you could not have rank, and you could not enlist. So we're so sorry. Army, you were last to come into that. But it was necessity that made the changes. So it was driven by necessity, and that's the only reason that we were allowed to start having these jobs, because the services needed men to go to battle. So that's really what was changing all of this. Army Signal Corps is a great example. They used the Hello Girls as an example of how this was changing. More than 230 bilingual telephone operators served in France and maintained vital communications. Let me tell you, these women, though, worked under the same drastic conditions that our men were under, these war conditions, right? But they weren't getting any of the safety conditions, right? They weren't getting helmets, they weren't getting flak jackets, they weren't getting anything. They were just kind of wearing flimsy civilian clothes and expected to kind of be in these conditions without any of the dramatic safeties. So civilian relief organizations such as the Red Cross, YMCA, and the Salvation Army, they were expected to work and be there, but without any of these safeties. So let's just think about this. They had no military roles. Just think about this. They're expected, the women would go out, do all these things, but we're not going to cover you, and we're not going to pay you. So this was really setting up the stage for World War II. So, this is a big deal for Texans. Does anybody know who this woman is? Yes, thank you very much. So this is Ovida Culp Hobby. She's a major figure in World War II and a proud Texan. She led the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps and later the Women's Army Corps, the WACs. All right, so she's picked by the president, of course. Her leadership legitimized women's large-scale military service. After Pearl Harbor, Congress authorized the WACs, which General Marshall was the one that actually selected her as the first director of the WACs in 1942. So the number of jobs that opened to women quickly expanded from 54 to 200. Wow, can you imagine? 200 women? Like that was a big deal in World War II. So, I know, it's pretty exciting. But look, cover of Time magazine. Big deal, right? So here are all the different roles. Lieutenant Annie G. Fox becomes the first woman to receive the Purple Heart for injuries at Pearl Harbor. Her example that women's wartime service involved real risk. So imagine this. Look at all the things that we have done. It takes us all the way to World War II for somebody to really recognize, oh, wow, we're putting women like in jeopardy. We're putting them in harm's way. So think about this. It also, World War II is the first time that we're being exposed to the inequities of women. Like how we're finally like, oh my gosh, we're like, they're not getting the same treatment. all right? So think about this. Over 400 women have already lost their lives before this really comes, like people are starting to notice this. 400 women, these are like nurses, these are women who've lost their lives. So this is a big deal. So we've got, think about the nurses. Do you know that we had more than 6,000 women nurses have served? 67 were captured in the Philippines and that were held as prisoners of war. 67 were held as prisoners of war. I mean, like, who never even knew about this stuff? Like, this was not coming out during World War II, right? So this is a big deal that people should have been warned about and knew about back then. Didn't. So, Okay, so we also had women across the war effort were never that far from danger. Even when they were excluded from these combat roles, they worked in conditions that demanded resilience and skill. More than 140,000 women in the Army, 100,000 in the Navy, 23,000 in the Marine Corps, 13,000 in the Coast Guard. Women filled both traditional and newly opened roles. By the end of World War II, 350,000, think about this, 350,000 women had served in or with the U.S. military. 350,000, it's amazing. This is how much the women filled these roles. Now, let's talk about the WASP. WASP, women were flying aircraft, right? I mean, we all know about the WASP, right? But, I mean, they were like shuttling aircraft, they were test pilots, they were trainers. They were allowing men to be able to go out and actually fly combat missions. But these women were doing all the other stuff that needed to be done. Because of what they were doing, this really set precedent so that men, like we could understand that women could do these jobs. This is really critical. It changed minds. General Eisenhower later admitted he was wrong. Like, he had to admit he was wrong. He had been wrong to resist women's service. Chester Nimitz made this similar shift after seeing the Navy women's program succeed. Now, this is a useful reminder. How many times do men have to see women succeed before they finally go, oh, I get it. Okay. It's not like one woman did it and then nobody else can do it. Like, how many women have to do this stuff before we get it, right? Like, what is wrong, right? Like, what is it? I don't get it. Okay, so anyway, so this really finally gets the 1948 Women's Armed Services Integration Act. So finally, what does it take for them to say they can do it, right? So we finally do it. They can now allow women to be permanent members of the military. So it takes 1948 for them to do it. And they don't, now we're now getting limits, right? So that was a big deal. Like, you can only have 2. Right? Okay, now you can have 4, right? So remember, women can, you couldn't be an admiral. Now remember this, so yeah, we'll let you in, but you can only have so many of you, okay? Okay, and you can't go above the rank of colonel, okay? Because remember, she only got to be a colonel, right? The director, right? So now we're forming the WACs, and we got the WAFs, and we've got, in the Marine Corps, WMs, right? But we can't have a general, because God forbid we let anybody in the circle, right? So think about this. So this is what's going on. Now we're getting into Korea. 120,000 women served on active duty. Many served in healthcare, while others served in the Women's Army Corps, the WAFs, the Women Marines Reserves. This is possible because of the 1948 Integration Act. For the first time, women could serve as permanent members, because before they were only in the reserves. Now, let's get into my era, all right, because we're talking about Vietnam. Number of women in uniform increased significantly. They continue to serve in operational environments, Iraq, Afghanistan. All right, but think about this. I joined the United States Marine Corps. Okay, I'm a young whippersnapper, right? In 1974, it's the end of the Vietnam War. It's the all-volunteer force. It's the only place where there's equal pay for women. Think about this. Who joined in 1960? Woman. I know, guys, you're excited too. I get it. This is a riveting conversation we're having right now, right? Yes, ma'am. What year did you join? 65. What rank were you when you joined? Second lieutenant. Did you get paid the same as a male second lieutenant? No. You didn't? What did you get paid? You didn't? I'm pretty, just, what,
Travis Air Force Base in 1959.
what rank were you?
A2C.
A2C, okay.
You know what? I found a guy I found a guy I couldn't live without, and I married him, and I got pregnant.
And you get put out.
Goodbye.
They did, and that's what the rules were. Those are still the inequities when I came in.
But you know what wonderful machine they gave me? A typewriter.
Well, believe it or not, in 1974 is the same thing I was probably typing on. So the good news is, those are the things that, when I came in, I got paid exactly as my male counterpart. And so that was about the best part by the all-volunteer force, the rank and file, we were getting paid the same. As an enlisted Marine, as an E4, yes, ma'am, Beck.
66 first lieutenant.
First lieutenant, you're probably getting paid the same as an O2 across the board. Because by then, if you came in as an O2, the O2s are getting paid regardless of gender. And so that was the one thing that women could say as they were coming in, they weren't paying differently by gender. So that was kind of the pluses. But the all-volunteer force, and this is by the time the draft went away, they were so excited that men would be so patriotic that they would just run to the door, and guess what happened? They didn't. Right. But who was coming to the door? Women, because they continued to see an opportunity to serve their country. And so that's where the void started to really change. And that's what was really amazing, because you had people like your own Rear Admiral Stratton began her career at the Vietnam, serving ultimately as the director of the Navy nurse, and Colonel Huebner, another Vietnam-era veteran. Only two examples, and you know of all the women here who serve to show the history is not distant. It lives right here. It lives in local families, veterans, and leaders among us. And again, raise your hands, those of you who've served. Yeah, I mean, right here, your own incredible histories, right? And your stories that you've got to tell. And let me tell you, it hasn't changed. Women have earned the nation's highest military decoration. Sergeant Lee Ann Hester had earned the Silver Star for bravery in 2005. Women across the entire military life, aviation, command, law, logistics, medicine, maintenance, leadership. It combines excellence with everyday courage. In 2013, combat exclusion policy was finally lifted. Women can go into combat today. I don't know if everybody agrees with that. It doesn't matter. All right? Because you've already seen all the way from Molly Pitcher, Civil War. We've been doing it. You know, when you have to hide the fact that you're patriotic and you're willing to serve your country, and now women are, as long as they're qualified to be able to do the job. And that's all that matters, the skill sets, right? That's what we're talking about. What's really amazing that in the last 10 years alone, we've had 4 stars. We've had women that have qualified to be Rangers. We've had women who've commanded platoons in combat in Afghanistan. We've had the first women artillery officers in the Marine Corps. We've had Air Force had Lori Robinson as the first 4-star unified combatant commander when she led NORTHCOM. We've had Admiral Linda Fagan was the first Commandant of the Coast Guard. We've had Admiral Lisa Franchetti, who became the first CNO. We had Jackie Van Ostem, was the first general for U.S. Transcom. General Laura Robinson was the first commander of U.S. Southcom. I mean, 4-star women who were in the international and in the comms units. I mean, they've demonstrated the ability to lead, and that's what's really important. But they've also been the fact that one of the biggest challenges is on Veterans Day, right? I go down to Krispy Kreme to get my free donut and my cup of coffee. And to have some 21-year-old look at me and go, "Do you have an ID card?" Or they'll say, "Oh, this is for the veterans."
Yeah.
Right? Because someone looks at me or will look at you and they'll go, what? They can't imagine that someone like us, that looks like us, are veterans. They'll look at you and my Marine buddy back there and they'll say, right away, right? Or any male that may have never served, and they'll just assume that because he's a male, that he is a veteran. But someone that looks like me, her, could not possibly have ever worn the cloth of their nation. And all I want is my stinking donut, right? And so it's an insult, right? Because I, up until about a year ago, was the longest serving woman in the United States Marine Corps. I'm the only Latina to ever been a United States Marine general. I mean, those are accolades that maybe never will be broken. And yet all I want is a donut because I served my country, right? And to be recognized that I am as proud of an American and as proud of a person to have claimed the title of veteran. That's all I want somebody to recognize me for. That's all I ask. So right now, I want you all to close your eyes. Can you do that for me? I do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. You can open your eyes now. So generations and generations of Americans who have raised their hands in response to the call of the nation, both in times of war and peace. What inspires ordinary citizens to utter these words and embraces their motto, "I am an American fighting in the armed forces which guard my country and our way of life"? What moves them to willingly go in harm's way so that others can sleep comfortably in the warmth of their beds, so that others can sleep warmly in their beds? To spend holidays and birthdays and anniversaries in places many of us can't spell or find on the map. How many first steps of our children's were missed while we stood watch or missed the winning touchdown run by our firstborn because they were building an orphanage in South America or driving the logistics vehicle on a dangerous road in Iraq? So today we're gathering to celebrate the women who chose to answer the call, to wonder ourselves what motivates America's daughters from all walks of life to be willing to go above and beyond so that others will understand and know what liberty is. So since the beginning of our great nation, when colonial Americans risked their lives for freedom, women have been there to prove they too are just as capable of protecting what is dearest to them as men. So let us imagine a young Miss Carol Huebner, the day she proudly raised her hand, and the countless others from each generation, each motivated, inspired, stirred, moved, or called, courageous in spirit to serve something greater than themselves. Etched in glass at the Women's Memorial in Washington, D.C. is the quote of a World War II nurse. And it says, "Let the generations know that women in uniform also guaranteed their freedom, that our resolve was just as great as the brave men who stood among us, and with victory, our hearts are just as full and beat just as fast, and that the tears fell just as hard for those that we left behind." You know, the value of military service can only be truly appreciated by the few who've worn the cloth of the nation and the families who have stood behind them. An individual's worth is measured by not only what one does, but the impact of what they have done. The 10% of women veterans of the over 20.4 million veterans come from all walks of life. They know the meaning of service above oneself. Whether we're Coast Guardsmen, soldiers, sailors, airmen, or Marines, active duty reserve, or National Guard, we've served honorably. And we ask for nothing in return but to be recognized that we too have served. We're ordinary women, both young and old. We're moms, daughters, sisters, cousins, aunts. We're neighbors, teachers, coaches. We've delivered the mail. We're the grocery cashier. We've led Girl Scout troops. We're veterans, doctors, lawyers. We've been elected officials. We're CEOs, administrative assistants. We've been camp counselors. And we've proudly worn a uniform that proudly say that we've also become better citizens. We're also so blessed that we live in a place that we can still teach patriotism, that we can honor those who serve our nation, that we proudly stand with a hat in our hand, with our hand on our heart, over our hearts when the national anthem is played, where girls know that they can grow up to be the captain of the ship, they can fly planes, they can be mechanics, they can be the mayor, a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, or the general, because they know there are women who went before them. You're the veterans. You're the family members of veterans. You've served during times of war and peace. You've protected our nation in some of the most hostile areas of the world, putting your life on the line for your fellow Americans. You've paved the way for other women to follow. You've paid a big price. Time away from your homes, your families, but you made friends for life. And you know that you are a rare, rare breed. Thank you. On behalf of the 99% of the population who will never understand the pride the 1% knows, I say thank you. Thank you for everyone else. So don't be surprised when the veteran wears heels. So let's buy us a drink on 12 June. Or maybe on 11 November on the Marine Corps birthday. So thank you very much. It's been my incredible honor to have been here with each of you today. So happy Women's Veterans Day. God bless. Anybody got any great questions? Yeah, thank you. This is really great. I know I didn't talk anything about my incredible career as a United States Marine, but does anybody have any questions? I know you all want to cut this incredible cake, so, because you all just really came for the cake. Anybody got any questions?
Tell us about your career.
That's a great question. So I joined the Marine Corps. I spent 39 years in the Marine Corps, and then I got out. No, thank you. I was I'm a native Texan. When I was very young, we moved to Northern California. I had no intentions of ever being a Marine. Obviously, I was a young sophomore in college. I found myself between my sophomore and junior years pretty much not knowing what I was going to do. No one in my family had gone to college. Everybody tried. My sister tried. My brother tried. He ended up joining the Army. And by the time I went, I was the youngest of 5. I really didn't have the financial ability to stay in school. I had really bad habits, and so I did something really well. As I often tell people, I partied really well for 2 years. And, things are funny in the world. I went to go mail a letter, and out came a United States Marine. And he looked at me and said, "Why aren't you in the United States Marine Corps?" I'm a typical 19-year-old, and I looked at him and I said, "I'm trying to mail a letter. Get away from me." And, as I mentioned, I'm going to school in San Francisco Bay Area, and it is, as I mentioned, it's 74. It's the end of the Vietnam War. It's a crazy time for all of you because you're all my age, and you know what it was like. It was gas was high. It's Haight-Ashbury. San Francisco's right across the street from me. People, I grew up at a time where nothing on the news but the war. People are burning the American flag on the streets. You've seen that. At the same time, I'm watching, man land on the moon, one small step, right? So you've got this mixed messages, and and then have this Marine recruiter who gets absolutely no credit, right? Because they're not recruiting women, and he's asking me, "Why aren't you a United States Marine?" I met him on the 30th of April. On the 4th of May, I do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution. And on the 7th of May, I'm at Parris Island, South Carolina, with a drill instructor in my face, and I am having the worst case of buyer's remorse. Absolutely, in hindsight, the best decision. I mean, that was the beginning of 39 years. And again, the Marine Corps, that recruiter said to me, "You are joining an organization that does not want you. You are joining an organization." I mean, I say this openly in my speeches. This Marine recruiter, the Staff Sergeant Thompson, I remember him today. However, if you earn the title of Marine, no one will ever take that away from you. You will earn that title. You will earn the title of Marine. And to this day, I say I am a United States Marine. I don't say I'm a general. I don't say. And when people say, "What are you most proud of?" I earned the title of Marine. I am a United States Marine. And so every accolade I've received, every achievement, honorary doctorate degrees, everything, I am a United States Marine. And I am proud of that because they have been tested, I have been driven. Not every Marine had welcomed me into the realm. Every old Marine has tested me. Every young Marine tested me. Every command tested me. Both male and female, it was not an easy ride. And I made every mistake I could possibly make. I had every staff NCO, who taught me well, and so, and as I said, it was a survivor's. But I think every Marine would say exactly what I am saying, and I think. Is it a brotherhood? Is it a sisterhood? Is it it is a Marine, and that's what I think we all. What brings us to be such a brotherhood or such a clan or whatever it is, and so for the best pride that I can hold myself to, and people say, well, like why did you stay in? Well, I was afraid to get out, and my mom would often say, in Spanish, she would, ¿Por qué te metiste en esa cosa? El gobierno no paga mucho. Why did you get into something like that? The governor doesn't pay much, and it was, why did you stay? Well, because, I felt like I found my place. I found my people. I found a group, the people that wanted to serve something greater than themselves. And I felt like I was making a difference. And every assignment, what I loved about the Marine Corps is, constantly challenged you. You changed every 2 years, and it was, you didn't have a skill set. You got thrust into this expectation that you led. Here you are, 23 years old, and you're entrusted with, the lives of, these incredible young people who look to you with this expectation that you had a solution, a challenge, and, this expectation that you lead, right, and with solutions, and this expectation that you had to educate yourself. Everything was education and education and education. You didn't sit back on your laurels. And this demand, this absolute demand that you care. And it was interesting that to come out of the Marine Corps into the civilian world, where that doesn't seem to have that same expectation, which is what I love about here, because how many of you seen the movie iRobot? Right? I feel like that's that same thing, right? Like I feel like we cluster, like we all come together, because I often, when I speak, I say that like every person should go into the military, like every kid should come in, because that's what the civilian world, like they look to me and they go like, what is it about us? I said, that's what you miss. Like when I was on active duty, I would have people, especially I think after 9/11, I'd be in uniform, because I made my Marines, I made them get on Southwest. I was the commander, I was CG at MCRD San Diego. And when they shut down the airport, it was the eeriest thing in the world. We used to call it the San Diego pause. I'd be out there giving speeches, and we'd have to all stop when the planes would take off. And we'd have to, but when they shut the airports down, it was creepy. And so I'd make my Marines, we'd all go, like we're going to take a flight, and we'd go visit my Marines, recruiters and stuff. And so we'd be the only people at the airport. And so it was to show faith. It would show faith that we would be brave enough to go get on those airplanes again. And so we have to be the leaders in those arenas. And so trying to show the civilian world that we are the ones who do that. So anyway, I know you all have to go cut the cake. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a great experience.
Ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing a little history lesson. We have a special memento for you, an Art Challenge coin. You're welcome to come back anytime and have a drink.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here to help us celebrate Women Veterans Day. I also invite members of the audience to continue our celebration of this day by seeking out one of the women veterans here, one of your friends and neighbors, and asking her to share with you stories of her military service. We have 2 tables in the back of the auditorium with a list of resources for women veterans, a photo and information about purchasing an honor stone for the Women Veterans Honor Garden that we have near our healthcare building, and a display of books about women veterans curated by our ARC librarian, Mrs. Joanne Kroll. We also have information about the Military Women's Memorial in Washington, D.C. If you are a women veteran and have not registered your service with the memorial, I urge you to do so. It is an easy online process, and I will be happy to help anyone who has questions about it or needs assistance. Thank you to all the ARC staff and residents who contributed their time and efforts to this celebration of women veterans. Thanks again to Major General Salinas for speaking to us. We invite you to share some refreshments and enjoy this beautiful day. Best wishes, and thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
I'm like, he's not gonna fire you. Oh, God, let's say that. Thanks, Karen. That was really lovely. I'm John Payne's daughter.
I'm glad a Marine showed up.
Well, and I'm a Marine too. And I actually served under the general, so I thought I'd come say hello. Yeah. Yeah. So, figured.
Congratulations, Nick.
Thank you. Well, it runs in the family. My brothers were jarheads too. So,
Hey, hi.
he must have set a good
That
example.
DNA was very strong, right?
Yeah.
Hey Karen, you did a great job.
Thank you.
She's a lovely
I was
speaker.
telling her when I commanded 10th Mountain Division, my discount commander was Ken Dunbar,
Sort of good line going.
first four-star female in
I have her
history.
book upstairs in my
In the
collection.
history of it, yeah, she was awesome. Just a wonderful role model, not only for the women, but the men.
Hello. Thank you for your service.
Well, my story is, do you know
I
who
am.
Wilma Bodkin is?
I did. I was a Marine too. Yeah. So you know.
She worked for my father.
I know, and I
My
noticed you're
father was
very.
a base finance.
My husband is a retired army. So yeah. So
Our travel to
I only
Spain
did 10 years. So
was
yep.
and so my dad had to go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
So my parents had to pay for
Okay,
our plane
okay.
tickets to find me to be on it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. I want to say hello.
And Wilma drove down from Zaragoza with her car to pick us up.
Oh, that's so
She
funny.
worked for my dad. And
Yeah.
then when I was
Yeah.
my first
That's so.
for a month,
Right. I saw you nodding your head like, oh, I'm feeling that right there. And it, you know, in this community, we understand how that woman said
I
it.
stopped at the curb.
We know what she
Hi,
said.
I'm Wilma Bott. I said, but I know you. I'm Karen Williams, and my father is Edward Williams. And so
Can you get
she got
past
back in touch with
okay? What if I do that? Oh, you're sweet. There we go. Sure.
Thank
You
Yep.
have a great voice. Thank you.
Maybe I'll push it closer to the.
Really made the 11th floor proud. Yeah, that was really.
I'm just glad we have good number.
How's your buddy doing?
He's in hospice. I was going to say.